As the saying goes, every good hero needs a rotten villain to go up against. The more cunning the villain, the bigger the evil, the more heroic the hero looks. Case in point, James Bond, the suave spy with a license to kill. In the movies, Bond has battled evil masterminds for over half a century now, and the franchise has produced some of the most iconic villains of the silver screen. That being said, I feel the evil plans of the iconic Bond villains often get overlooked or are quickly forgotten. I'm one of those guys who loses the plot of a Bond film about halfway through, so that when Bond finally faces off with the evil mastermind, I'm left wondering why Bond is stopping him again. Like so many people, I watch Bond films for the exotic locations, the suave suits and rich style, the womanizing and crazy gadgets. In short, anything but the actual plot. Which is a shame, because the franchise excels in presenting wonderfully colorful villains, wild with ambition and evil plans to match. And so, in this YouTube series, I set out to rewatching the Bond movies and figuring out who the villains are and what their evil plans entail. Seeing as I'm an incurable traditionalist, I'm going to take things chronologically, starting here with the first Bond movie, Dr. No. Released in theaters in 1962, Dr. No was an adaptation of the 6th James Bond novel by Ian Fleming with the same name. It would have made sense to start with the first novel, Casino Royale, but someone else held the rights to that one, so that wasn't an option for Ian. And they probably figured, if we can't do the first novel, we can start anywhere we want, right? Since they didn't know if these movies were going to be a financial success, they picked Dr. No because it seemed like it would be the cheapest to make. Dr. No takes us to Jamaica, where the titular villain has a private island, Crab Key, from which he operates. It is clear Dr. No has done well for himself. Having grown up in China, he rose through the ranks of organized crime, and when he became bored of that, ran off with their money. Besides stealing, Dr. No seems to have a real talent for science, and has offered up his services to the powerful nations of the East and the West, but was rejected by both. I can see why neither would be very interested in a man with his resume, but being the mad scientist type, Dr. No was presumably quite offended by the rejection. However, he didn't need to wait long before being picked up by a third-party organization, Spectre. Seeing beyond such trivial geopolitical boundaries as East and West, Spectre's goal is world domination. Or at least this is what James Bond speculates upon meeting Dr. No and learning about Spectre. But Dr. No doesn't refute Bond's assessment, so I'm gonna take it to be true. Spectre stands for Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge and Extortion, so these guys clearly don't want there to be any doubt about what they're about. It is a bit hard to see exactly where Dr. No fits in. Smart as the man may be, one gets the distinct impression he isn't the brains behind the operation. The terrorism department seems to fit Dr. No best, although his chosen target seems a bit odd in that regard. His main concern here seems to be disrupting US rockets launched from the Cape Canaveral site. Apparently just for this reason Dr. No has built his secret lair, complete with a nuclear reactor to power his disruptive radio beam. We are, however, somewhat left in the dark about his motives to do so. The only line of explanation given is this.
Missiles are only the first step to prove our power.
Vague as this line may be, it is certainly ominous. But if his goal is to raise some terror, he is going to have to come up with something a little scarier than knocking rockets, of course. Then again, rockets are crazy expensive, so he's bound to piss off some people in messing with those launches. We also learn Dr. No has specialized in nuclear physics, so he could be working up to a lot worse. Luckily, Dr. No is stopped by our hero Bond before it gets to that. Being only one of 2 villains who has the honor of having the entire film named after them, Dr. No actually gets surprisingly little screen time. Rather than taking center stage, Dr. No operates from his lair deep beneath his island, making his presence felt through his henchmen, the 3 blind mice and the sly Professor R.J. Dent, rather than showing up in person. As the title suggests, Dr. No's shadow looms large over Bond's first cinematic adventure, killing off anyone who gets too close to his operation. He keeps up an air of mystery that works remarkably well as James Bond slowly tracks him down. The first time we actually see Dr. No's face is almost an hour and a half into the movie. In the 20 minutes that are left before the credits roll, he does make a distinct impression. Both intelligent and sophisticated, we meet the first gentleman Bond villain. Played cool by Joseph Wiseman, Dr. No is calculating and in control. Dressed in his now signature white Chinese costume and distinct face makeup, Dr. No's visual appearance is striking and memorable, setting the bar high for future Bond villains to come. He's undeniably slightly of a rocker though, and his plan ultimately comes off as a bit silly. Remarkably, he's not going to be the last Bond villain with a strange fascination with space and rockets either. While general interest in space programs may be at an all-time low right now, during the 60s and 70s fascination couldn't have been higher. Space exploration not only seemed to quench a scientific hunger, it also held the key to boosting our communication capabilities to unimaginable heights. Finally, space opened the doors for new military applications. At the time, rockets were not just a matter of prestige, they were a sign of innovation and progress. In the zeitgeist of the early 60s, it would make sense for a mad scientist like Dr. No to be fascinated with rockets. While not the best on-screen Bond villain, Dr. No certainly set the tone for his villainous successors. A wild if slightly silly evil plan, a striking and iconic appearance, a cutting-edge lair in an exotic location, and aided by cool, if sometimes incompetent henchmen. Yes, Dr. No kicked off the James Bond movie franchise in style. By casually mentioning his membership with Spectre, Dr. No sets up a larger arc for the first Bond movies. In this first movie, the evil organization remained shrouded in mystery though. Who are the other members? What is their plan? And ultimately, their endgame? Where do they operate from? We find out precious little in Dr. No. So join us next time as we find out more about Spectre and see what the evil plan is in the second Bond movie. From Russia, with love. Hi, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. This is the first video I did in a while, so for me this was an opportunity not just to talk about James Bond and Dr. No, but to brush up on my video editing skills, and I really learned a lot making this video. And I'm gonna do a lot more of these, not just on James Bond, but also on new movies I've seen or comics that I've read. So be sure to check those out as well. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can keep up to date, or you can, if you want to support us, go to the Patreon page, find out a little more about who we are and what we do, and how you can help us. So see you next time.